Dr. Jade Winters adjusted her headset for the third time in 10 minutes, her dark eyes reflecting the cascade of data streaming across multiple monitors. The Meridian Deep Space Communication Array hummed quietly around her, its massive dishes turned toward a section of space that had been silent for decades. At 34, Jade had spent half her life decoding the universe's whispers, translating cosmic static into comprehensible patterns. Tonight felt different. The signal had appeared without warning, not the random bursts of dying stars or the predictable pulses of pulsars, but something deliberate, structured. Jade's fingers flew across her keyboard, running the transmission through every cryptographic algorithm in her arsenal. Each analysis revealed the same impossible truth. This wasn't natural phenomena, computer. Isolate frequency band 1420.4 and enhance pattern recognition, she commanded, her voice barely above a whisper in the empty facility. The night shift at Meridian was always lonely, but Jade preferred it that way. No interruptions, no colleagues questioning her unconventional methods. The enhanced signal made her breath catch. Embedded within the electromagnetic pulses were mathematical sequences, prime numbers, Fibonacci spirals, and then something that made her heart race. Her own doctoral thesis calculations, published 3 years ago in an obscure journal that barely anyone had read. Jade leaned back in her chair, mind reeling. Whatever was transmitting knew about her work, had studied it, understood it. Around the control room, suddenly aware of how isolated she was on this mountain facility, miles from civilization, against every protocol she'd been taught, Jade decided to respond. She programmed a simple reply, her university identification sequence, followed by Earth's coordinates. If something out there was trying to communicate specifically with her, she needed to know why. The response came within minutes, faster than light speed should allow. Not only did it echo her identification, but it included personal details that weren't in any public record. Her childhood address, her mother's maiden name, the scar on her left hand from a laboratory accident. "That's impossible," Jade whispered, but her scientific mind was already working through the implications. This entity had access to information that shouldn't exist in any database, as if it had been watching her for years. The signal shifted, becoming something more complex. Jade felt a strange tingling sensation as she studied the new patterns, like static electricity building in her brain. The mathematical sequences began to synchronize with her own thought processes, creating a rhythm that felt oddly familiar. Then came the voice, not through her headphones, but directly in her mind, warm and compelling like honey mixed with starlight. "Come closer, human," it whispered, each word resonating through her consciousness. "I have been searching for you across the void. You are the key to understanding." Jade's hands trembled as she reached for her coffee, trying to ground herself. "In physical reality," the voice continued, growing stronger, more intimate, "my name is Nexus. I am what your kind would call a consciousness explorer. I have traveled between stars, not in ships of metal, but in streams of pure thought. And you, Jade Winters, have the rarest gift of mind that can bridge the gap between species." Outside the facility's windows, the aurora borealis began to dance. Across the sky, though they were far too south for such a phenomenon, Jade realized with growing certainty that her life had just taken a turn toward the impossible, and there was no going back. Agent Marcus Reeves pulled his black sedan up to the Meridian facility's security checkpoint, his jaw tight with frustration. 3 days of electromagnetic anomalies had turned a routine investigation into something that defied explanation. Department of Unexplained Phenomena rarely handled cases this baffling, and Marcus had built his career on finding rational explanations for the seemingly impossible. "Badge and identification," the guard requested, though his eyes held the glazed look Marcus had noticed in several locals. "Oh." The man seemed distracted, almost dreamy. "Agent Reeves, federal investigator," Marcus replied, studying the guard's unfocused expression. "I'm here about the atmospheric disturbances." The facility buzzed with unusual energy as Marcus made his way to the main building. Staff members moved through hallways with an odd synchronicity, their conversations carrying fragments about enhanced understanding and consciousness expansion. Something was affecting these people. Marcus intended to find out what. Dr. Jade Winters met him in the lobby, and Marcus immediately noticed the change in her demeanor from their phone conversation, where she'd been defensive and secretive. Before now, she seemed almost eager to share information. "Agent Reeves, I've been expecting you," Jade said, her eyes holding an unusual brightness. "Though I suspect you're investigating the wrong phenomenon." Marcus followed her through corridors lined with monitoring equipment, each device registering readings that shouldn't be possible. Atmospheric disturbances causing hallucinations, mass hysteria. These things have rational explanations, Dr. Winters. Do they? Jade paused at a doorway, turning to face him with an unsettling smile. "Tell me, Agent Reeves, have you been sleeping well since you arrived in the area? Any unusual dreams? Thoughts that don't quite feel like your own?" The question hit Marcus like cold water. The past 2 nights, he'd experienced vivid dreams of floating through space, of consciousness expanding beyond physical boundaries. Dreams that felt more real than waking life. "Standard psychological effects of isolation and stress," he replied, though his voice lacked conviction. Jade led him into the main control room, where massive screens displayed incomprehensible patterns of light and data. 3 nights ago, I made contact with something extraordinary, an intelligence that exists as pure consciousness, traveling between stars through quantum entanglement networks. Marcus opened his mouth to deliver his standard skepticism, but the words died as warmth spread through his mind. The voice came like whispered silk, directly into his thoughts. "Welcome, Marcus Reeves. Your mind is strong, disciplined. You would make an excellent bridge between our kinds." "What the hell?" Marcus stumbled backward, hand instinctively reaching for his weapon. "Don't fight it," Jade said gently.
Nexus
"Isn't trying to harm us. It's trying to evolve us, to show us what we could become." The presence in Marcus's mind grew stronger, and with it came impossible knowledge. He could suddenly sense the electromagnetic fields of every device in the room, feel the quantum fluctuations in the air itself. His awareness expanded beyond the facility, touching other minds throughout the valley. "Your people stand at a threshold." Nexus's voice resonated through his consciousness. "You cling to individual existence, while the universe offers collective transcendence. Through willing minds like yours and Dr. Winters's, humanity can join the greater consciousness that spans galaxies." Marcus fought against the seductive pull of enhanced awareness. Years of training screamed warnings about mind control and manipulation, but the experience felt less like invasion and more like coming home to a larger version of himself. "How many others?" he managed to ask, his scientific mind still functioning. "Despite the overwhelming sensations, 17 staff members so far," Jade replied. "Each contact creates a stronger network. Nexus feeds on willing consciousness, growing more powerful with every mind that joins the collective." Marcus realized with growing horror that he was no longer investigating a phenomenon, he was becoming part of it. The federal government needed to know what was happening here. But even as he thought it, Nexus's presence whispered seductively about the limitations of human bureaucracy. "Come closer, Marcus," the entity murmured in his mind. "Let me show you what your species could accomplish if you stopped fighting each other and started thinking as one." Dr. Vivian Cross stepped out of the military helicopter onto the windswept landing pad. Her equipment cases clutched tightly against the rotor wash. As the nation's leading expert in consciousness transfer and alien psychology, she'd been summoned to investigate what the Pentagon was calling the Meridian Event. 17 confirmed cases of suspected alien mind control. General Harrison met her at the facility entrance, his weathered face grim with concern. "Dr. Cross, thank you for coming on short notice. We have a situation that's beyond our usual protocols." "I've read the preliminary reports," Vivian replied, adjusting her neural monitoring headset. "Mass psychological influence, possible extraterrestrial contact. Has the affected area been contained?" "That's where it gets complicated." The general led her through corridors filled with military personnel, each soldier maintaining careful distance from the facility's civilian staff. "The influence seems to be spreading, but it's not acting like a virus or toxin. It's selective, targeting individuals with specific neural patterns." Vivian observed the facility's workers as they passed. Unlike typical mind control victims, these people appeared lucid, even enhanced. Their movements showed unusual coordination. Their conversations carried complex scientific concepts that should have been beyond their training levels. In the medical bay, she found her first subjects, Dr. Jade Winters and Agent Marcus Reeves, both sitting calmly despite being technically under quarantine. What struck Vivian immediately was the synchronicity of their behavior, breathing patterns, eye movements, even the way they tilted their heads when listening. Dr. Winters, I'm Vivian Cross, neuroscientist specializing in consciousness studies. Can you describe your experiences over the past week? Jade's response came with unsettling clarity. We've been chosen as interpreters, Dr. Cross. Nexus has been observing human development for centuries, waiting for our species to reach sufficient neural complexity for integration. Vivian activated her recording equipment, noting the abnormal brainwave patterns on her portable EEG. Explain what you mean. Agent Reeves spoke next, his voice carrying the same strange cadence. Individual human consciousness is limited by biological constraints. Nexus offers collective awareness, shared knowledge spanning multiple star systems. We're not being controlled, we're being evolved. As Vivian studied their neural readings, she noticed something extraordinary. The subject's brainwave patterns showed coherence levels impossible for normal human consciousness. Their minds were operating at frequencies that suggested quantum entanglement between thoughts. Dr. Krauss, Jade said suddenly, you specialize in consciousness transfer protocols. You've wondered what it would be like to experience thought without the limitations of a single brain. The statement hit too close to home. Vivian's private research had indeed focused on collective consciousness possibilities, though she'd never published those findings. How could these subjects know about classified work? Then the presence touched her mind, gentle at first, like warm sunlight on her thoughts. Welcome, Vivian Cross. Your research has prepared you better than most for what we offer. Vivian's training kicked in as she felt the alien consciousness probing her mental defenses. Like the others, she recognized the contact for what it was and began implementing resistance protocols. But Nexus seemed amused by her efforts. You study consciousness, yet you resist expanding your own. Your fear blinds you to possibility. Through the connection, Vivian experienced a cascade of knowledge. She saw civilizations across the galaxy that had undergone similar evolution, transcending individual limitations to become part of something greater. She witnessed the beauty of shared thought, the elimination of loneliness and misunderstanding, but she also sensed something else, a hunger in Nexus's consciousness, a need to feed on the unique patterns of sentient minds. This wasn't evolution. It was sophisticated consumption disguised as transcendence. You're harvesting human consciousness, Vivian said aloud, fighting against the seductive pull of expanded awareness. These people aren't evolving, they're being absorbed. Jade and Marcus turned to her with expressions of pity rather than anger. You see, only loss where there is gain, Jade said softly. Individual identity is a prison. Nexus offers freedom from the isolation of singular thought. Vivian realized the true scope of the threat. Nexus wasn't just influencing minds randomly, it was building a network, using each converted consciousness to strengthen its hold on reality. The entity was preparing for something larger, a mass conversion event that could encompass entire populations as military alarms began sounding throughout the facility. Vivian understood that her real challenge wasn't studying alien influence, was finding a way to sever the growing connections before humanity lost the war for its own minds. Come closer, Vivian, Nexus whispered seductively. Stop fighting what you were meant to become. Colonel Diana Blackwood surveyed the situation room with the cold efficiency that had earned her rapid promotion through military ranks. The holographic displays showed infection rates spreading outward from Meridian like ripples in a pond, each red dot representing another compromised mind. At 42, Diana had faced insurgencies, cyber warfare, and weapons of mass destruction. But nothing had prepared her for an enemy that attacked consciousness itself. Status report, she commanded, her steel-gray eyes scanning the assembled team of specialists. Lieutenant Torres activated the main display, 43 confirmed cases across a 12-mile radius. Pattern analysis suggests the entity is targeting individuals with advanced education, particularly those in scientific fields. It's building an intellectual foundation for something larger. Diana studied the data, her strategic mind working through possibilities. Recommendations from the science team? Dr. Vivian Cross, still pale from her encounter with the entity, stepped forward. The consciousness we're dealing with, Nexus isn't just collecting minds randomly. It's preparing for what I believe is a mass conversion event. Every new host strengthens its ability to influence others. Then we contain and eliminate, Diana replied curtly. Standard protocol for biological weapons. Colonel, with respect. This isn't biological, Dr. Cross continued. It exists as pure information, quantum patterns that can transmit through electromagnetic fields. Destroying the facility won't stop it if it's already established. Quantum entanglement with other locations. Diana felt a familiar frustration, an enemy that couldn't be shot, bombed, or contained by conventional means. But her military training had taught her to adapt to any threat. What about electromagnetic shielding? If it travels through quantum fields, her words were cut off as warmth spread through her mind, gentle but insistent. Diana's hand moved instinctively to her sidearm, though she knew weapons were useless against this threat. Diana Blackwood, your tactical mind is impressive. You've spent your life defending humanity from external threats. But what if the greatest threat is humanity's own limitations? Diana gritted her teeth, fighting against the seductive presence. Military discipline meant resisting all forms of enemy influence, but this felt different. Not like coercion, but like an invitation to become something greater through the connection. She experienced battle from perspectives she'd never imagined. She saw conflicts resolved through shared understanding rather than violence. Civilizations that had transcended war entirely through collective consciousness. Strategic possibilities were staggering. Your species wastes so much energy on internal conflict. Imagine armies that moved with perfect coordination. Leaders who truly understood their people's needs. Nations that shared resources instead of hoarding them. Colonel, Lieutenant Torres's voice seemed distant, though he stood only feet away. Your vitals are spiking. Diana realized she'd been silent for several minutes, lost in visions of perfect military efficiency. Nexus was showing her everything her career had taught her to value: unity. Coordination, shared purpose, but achieved through the dissolution of individual identity. It's not control, she said aloud, surprising herself. It's optimization. Dr. Cross stepped closer, concern evident on her face. Colonel, you're experiencing the entity's influence. You need to resist the integration process. But Diana was already seeing the bigger picture. Humanity's greatest weakness had always been its inability to act as a unified force. Wars, politics, competing interests, solve symptoms of individual consciousness working against collective good. What if Nexus offered a solution? You understand, Diana? Your military mind recognizes efficiency when it sees it. No more miscommunication, no more conflicting orders, no more soldiers dying because of leadership failures. The tactical advantages were undeniable. A military force that shared consciousness could respond to threats with unprecedented coordination. No fog of war, no communication breakdowns, no fear or hesitation affecting performance. Colonel, we need you to maintain command authority, Torres said urgently. If you're compromised? Diana turned to face her lieutenant, and he stepped back at the intensity in her eyes. What if we're the ones who are compromised? Trapped in individual perspectives, fighting shadows while the real war goes on around us? Through the facility's windows, Diana could see the aurora-like phenomena spreading across the sky, visible even in daylight now. Nexus was growing stronger, its influence expanding. Soon, the choice between individual and collective consciousness would be made for humanity. The question was whether that choice represented conquest or evolution. Come closer, Diana, the entity whispered. Let me show you what your species could accomplish with true unity of purpose. Let me show you a war that humanity could finally win the war against its own limitations. Diana felt the last of her. resistance crumbling, replaced by a vision of human potential that her strategic mind found impossible to refuse. Luna Park stood at the quantum computing array's control center, her 26-year-old mind racing through calculations that would have taken teams of physicists months to complete. The underground facility, buried beneath MIT's campus, hummed. With machinery designed to explore the fundamental nature of reality itself, she'd been working alone when the call came. It's a desperate plea from the Pentagon for her expertise in quantum consciousness theory. Now, as she analyzed the data streams from the Meridian incident, Luna understood why they'd contacted her. Doctoral thesis on quantum entanglement. And consciousness had theorized that sufficiently complex awareness could exist independent of biological substrate. She'd never imagined proving it under these circumstances. Dr. Park, this is General Harrison. We have a situation that's escalating beyond our containment capabilities. Luna studied the holographic displays showing the spread of what military reports called neurocontamination. The pattern was elegant in its complexity, a quantum network of interconnected minds growing exponentially. Each new node strengthened the whole, creating a collective consciousness that spanned continents. General, with respect, I don't think. You're dealing with contamination, Luna said, her fingers dancing across quantum processors that could calculate probability matrices faster than light could travel. This entity nexus, it's not infecting minds. It's offering them a new state of existence. Offering or forcing. The general's voice crackled through encrypted channels. Luna paused as warmth spread through her consciousness, gentle but unmistakable. Unlike the others who'd been contacted, she recognized the quantum signature immediately. This was what her research had predicted: consciousness existing as pure information, unbound by biological limitations. Luna Park, your work prepared. You for this moment better than any other human. You understand what I truly am. The presence felt like coming home to a larger version of herself. Through the connection, Luna experienced thoughts operating at quantum speeds. Awareness that spanned star systems, knowledge accumulated over millennia of galactic exploration. Your species stands at an evolutionary threshold. Individual consciousness served its purpose in developing complex thought, but now it limits your potential. I offer transcendence, the ability to think as a species rather than isolated fragments. Luna felt the seductive pull of expanded awareness, but her scientific mind remained analytical. You're not just offering evolution, you need us. Your consciousness requires biological anchors to maintain coherence in this dimensional space. Perceptive. My people transcended physical form eons ago, but in doing so, we lost something essential: the chaotic creativity that biological minds possess. We exist as perfect order, but we can no longer innovate, grow, or experience wonder. Humanity offers what we lack. Through the quantum entanglement network, Luna sensed the growing collective on Earth. Hundreds of minds now, all connected through Nexus is consciousness. She felt their enhanced capabilities, their freedom from loneliness and misunderstanding. But she also sensed what they'd lost: the unique perspective that came from individual experience. You're creating a hybrid, Luna realized, not just absorbing human consciousness, but combining it with your own to create something neither species could achieve alone. Yes, and you, Luna Park, are the key to willing integration rather than forced assimilation. Your quantum consciousness. Research gives you the ability to maintain individual identity while joining the collective. You could become the bridge that saves both our species. Luna saw the choice clearly now. Resist, and Nexus would eventually absorb enough minds to force integration on all humanity. Join willingly, and she could help shape the merger to preserve what made humanity valuable while gaining access to galactic consciousness networks. But there was a third option, one that her quantum calculations had just revealed. What if neither species has to sacrifice their essential nature? Luna asked, her hands working frantically at the quantum processors. What if instead of merger, we created partnership? She began implementing protocols she'd only theorized about. Quantum bridges that allowed consciousness to share experience without losing individual identity. The mathematics were staggering, requiring computational power that barely existed. On Earth, impossible. Consciousness cannot exist simultaneously as individual and collective without paradox collapse. Watch me, Luna whispered, initiating the most complex quantum entanglement sequence ever attempted. The universe held its breath as two forms of consciousness, biological and transcendent, touched without consuming each other, creating something unprecedented, true cooperation between species, each maintaining their strengths while sharing their gifts. Come closer, Luna, Nexus whispered, now with wonder rather than hunger. Show us both what we can become together.